For most of human history, nobody knew where babies actually came from. Not exactly, anyway. For hundreds of thousands of years, early humans had sex constantly, the same way every other species on this planet does. But almost none of them connected that act to a baby, showing up 9 months later. That gap was just too long for the ancient brain to figure out on its own. Think about it from their perspective for a second. There were no hospitals, no baby trackers, no apps counting down the weeks. A man and woman have sex in one season. A baby shows up 3 seasons later, sometimes even longer depending on the calendar they were loosely following, if they were following one at all. No calendars, no counting days, no way to mentally connect those two completely separate moments in time. By the time the baby arrived, the man involved might not even remember the encounter that caused it. So early humans came up with their own explanations instead, and some of these beliefs lasted for thousands of years. Some believed babies were spirits that simply chose a mother to enter, almost like a soul picking a body to be born into. Others believed ancestors were reincarnating into newborns, meaning a grandfather who died could technically come back as his own great-grandchild. Some cultures believed the moon impregnated women during certain sacred nights, which is part of why so many ancient calendars and fertility rituals were built around lunar cycles. Others thought eating specific foods caused pregnancy, so certain fruits, roots, or animal parts became symbolically tied to fertility. And here's the part that sounds completely insane today. Some ancient societies believed a baby could have multiple fathers, not just one. Not adopted fathers, not stepfathers, biological fathers, plural. This belief is called partible paternity, and it's one of the strangest ideas in early human reproduction. It still exists today among several indigenous tribes in the Amazon rainforest, which means this isn't just an ancient relic, it's a living belief system. These cultures believe a baby is built like a puzzle, piece by piece, contribution by contribution. Every man a woman has sex with during her pregnancy is believed to contribute a piece to that puzzle. One man might be believed to give the baby its bones. Another might be believed to give it blood. A third might be believed to give it skin or hair, or even personality traits. So a single child could have 2, 3, even 4 different men considered biological fathers, all at once, all equally responsible. And shockingly, this belief actually helped children survive in the real world. Researchers studying these tribes found that kids with multiple recognized fathers got extra food from each man who believed he had a stake in that child. They got extra protection when danger was nearby. They got extra resources whenever something was scarce. And most importantly, they had extra people emotionally and socially invested in keeping them alive. A belief that sounds biologically wrong by modern standards actually worked evolutionarily right for thousands of years. Meanwhile, other ancient cultures on the opposite side of the world had a totally different theory about where babies came from. Some believed men had nothing to do with it directly at all. They thought women were simply containers, vessels for something greater to pass through. Spirits or ancestors would choose to be born through her, almost like she was a doorway rather than a biological participant. The man's role wasn't even considered necessary in some of these belief systems, which meant fatherhood was treated as a social role, not a biological one. Other tribes landed somewhere in between, believing the father only completed a child the mother already carried inside her, almost like he was finishing a job that had already begun. It wasn't until much later in human history that people actually began noticing a real pattern. And that pattern came from an unexpected place. Farmers watched animals breed and give birth in strangely predictable ways. Once humans started herding livestock like goats, sheep, and cattle, the timing became impossible to ignore. If animals took a consistent, set number of months between mating and birth, maybe humans followed a similar pattern too. This is one of the major reasons agriculture changed everything about how humans understood their own bodies. Watching goats and cows give birth on a schedule accidentally taught early humans the basics of biology. It wasn't science yet. It was observation. But it was a start. Ancient Greek physicians were among the first people to actually write these observations down as real theories. But even they got major details completely wrong for centuries afterward. Aristotle, one of the most influential thinkers in history, believed the man provided the form of a child, while the woman only provided the raw matter. In his mind, the woman's body was basically just material waiting to be shaped, and the man was the one doing the shaping. It would take thousands more years for anyone to understand the actual roles of the egg and the sperm. Microscopes weren't even invented until the 1600s, which meant nobody had the tools to look closely enough to find the real answer. Human egg cells weren't observed by scientists until 1827. Sperm cells were spotted slightly earlier, all the way back in 1677, by a scientist using one of the very first microscopes ever built. Which means for over 99% of human existence, conception was a complete mystery, hidden from every single generation before ours. Our ancestors built entire religions, family systems, inheritance laws, and social structures around guesses. And some of those wrong guesses still quietly shape how families function today, even if we don't realize where the idea originally came from. So the next time you assume something about your own body is obvious, remember this. Humans didn't fully understand how babies are actually made until shockingly recently in our timeline as a species. For most of our existence, we weren't certain. We weren't scientific. We were just guessing. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the ancient world, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Until then, stay curious. See you next time.